When I first moved to Sydney, I was terrified. I had just landed a spot in a competitive graduate program in digital marketing at the University of New South Wales, and everything felt so big. The city buzzed with this energy I'd never felt back in Ballarat, where I grew up. And the cost of living? Insane. That's how I ended up living with Zara. She was looking for a flatmate, and I responded to her ad on a student Facebook group. From her profile picture, she looked warm and friendly, soft curls, a wine glass in hand, and this big, effortless laugh. We clicked immediately at our first meetup at a cafe in Surrey Hills. She was majoring in communications, super outgoing, and had this whole, cool city girl vibe. She seemed to know all the good pubs, the hidden brunch spots, the quickest train lines. Me? I still relied on Google Maps to find the nearest Woolies. So I moved into her 2-bedroom apartment in Newtown, modest but cozy. We split rent, did our grocery runs together, even had this little tradition of wine and takeaway Thai on Friday nights. She'd listen to me ramble about my latest project in SEO strategy, and I'd cheer her on during her podcast launches and freelance gigs. Honestly, at first, living with Zara felt like having a big sister I never had. She gave me hair tips, let me borrow her clothes, and helped me find a casual job at a cafe near campus when money got tight. We weren't just roommates. We were friends. Or at least, I thought we were. Looking back now, there were little things, red flags I ignored because I didn't want to believe she could be anything other than kind. Like the time she accidentally deleted my presentation slides from our shared USB just before a class showcase. She said she was sorry and even cried about it, but my stomach turned when I saw that her slides were somehow untouched. Or the time she told a guy I had a crush on that I was kind of intense and too focused on my grades. He ghosted me after that, and she claimed she was only joking, that I was overthinking it. But I let it go. I convinced myself that I was just being paranoid. We were both ambitious. Maybe it was normal to have moments of friction. I mean, we were in our 20s, juggling studies, side gigs, and big dreams. Stress could get the best of anyone. Besides, Zara had her own struggles too. She often talked about how hard it was to get noticed in the media industry, how she felt overshadowed by others who had more experience, more money, more connections. I listened, offered her encouragement, and genuinely wanted her to succeed. There was no competition, at least not from my side. I wanted us both to win. And for a while, it seemed like we were. We had our routines, our shared playlists, even our arguments about whether pineapple belonged on pizza. It doesn't, she disagreed. But everything changed the moment I got an email from Saffron & Stone, one of the top digital branding agencies in the country. I had applied months ago, half expecting to never hear back. But not only had they noticed my portfolio, they wanted to interview me. That email was the beginning of everything, the dream, the pressure, the unraveling, and the betrayal that I never saw coming. When I first opened the email from Saffron & Stone, I had to read it 3 times before it sank in. They'd seen my case study on micro-influencer campaigns, the one I nearly didn't submit because I thought it wasn't good enough, and wanted to invite me for an interview. Not a group session. Not a screening round. A one-on-one, second-stage interview with the senior digital strategist at their Darlinghurst office. I remember standing in the kitchen, holding my phone, barely breathing. Zara was at the stove, making her signature pesto pasta, and I blurted it out before I could stop myself. Zara. They called me. Saffron & Stone. I've got an interview next week. She turned around, spatula in hand, and forced a smile. Whoa. That's major, she said. I mean, not many people even get past their portfolio stage. I laughed, feeling giddy. I know. I still can't believe it. I think I'm gonna throw up. She laughed too, but her tone had shifted ever so slightly. Well, I guess all those nights working in your little corner finally paid off. I didn't think much of it then. We celebrated with cheap wine and that pasta. She even helped me pick an outfit for the interview, this crisp navy blazer I'd forgotten I owned and a cream blouse she loaned me, for power vibes. But over the next few days, something changed. At first, I thought it was just me being overly sensitive. I was nervous, obsessing over every detail. I printed out my resume on linen paper, rehearsed mock questions in the mirror, and even stopped watching Netflix just to focus. But Zara, she got distant. She started coming home late, barely talking to me, and when we did speak, it was just surface-level stuff. She used to ask about my projects, my ideas. Now she barely acknowledged anything unless I brought it up first. One evening, I found her scrolling on her laptop in the living room and asked if she could help me time my answers for a mock interview. She didn't even look up. Ugh. I'm swamped, she said. I've got 3 freelance scripts due. Can't this wait? Short for Eliza, was what she called me when she was being warm. But this time, it sounded clipped. Dismissive. I told myself not to take it personally. Everyone had off days. Maybe she was under pressure too. But something about her energy felt colder. Like I was suddenly this unwelcome presence in the apartment, or worse, a rival. The day of the interview came, and I was shaking like a leaf. I had barely slept the night before. Zara had been up until 2 a.m. on a Zoom call that sounded more like a party, loud laughter, clinking glasses, thudding music. I didn't ask. I just put in my earbuds and tried to drown it out. When I arrived at Saffron and Stone's office, this ultra-modern glass building near Taylor Square, I felt like I had stepped into a dream. The reception area had sleek lighting, polished concrete floors, and a vertical garden behind the front desk. Everything smelled like eucalyptus and espresso. The interview went incredible. The senior strategist, Claudia, was sharp but warm. She liked my take on community-driven branding and even asked if I was free for a follow-up, creative brainstorming session, the next week. It felt like the beginning of something huge. Life-changing. I came home glowing. Zara wasn't there. I texted her, it went so well. I think they're seriously considering me. No reply. Not that night. Not the next morning. And from that day on, the tension in our apartment wasn't just awkward, it was thick. Like walking through fog. Like something was slowly, invisibly, unraveling, and I didn't know yet just how much was at stake. What I didn't realize then was that while I had been preparing for my dream job, Zara had already started preparing to destroy it. At first, it was little things, barely noticeable, easily brushed off. The morning after my interview at Saffron and Stone, I sat down at my desk to prepare for the upcoming creative session they had invited me to. It was a huge deal, not quite a second interview, but more like a test to see how I'd fit in with their team dynamic. I wanted to be sharp. Impressive. So, I opened the shared Google Drive folder where I had saved my research, mood boards, pitch slides, and everything was gone. Just gone. At first, I panicked. Maybe I was logged into the wrong account. Maybe I had moved the folder accidentally. I checked every email, every tab, every corner of my laptop. Nothing. After nearly an hour of spiraling, I remembered I had backed up the deck to my external hard drive. I felt this overwhelming flood of relief, but something still didn't sit right. That folder had been there the night before. I had reviewed it before bed. There was no way it had just vanished. And I was the only one with access, or at least, I thought I was. I casually mentioned it to Zara over dinner. Hey, random question. You haven't been on my laptop lately, have you? My project folder disappeared, and I can't figure out how. She looked up from her phone, totally unfazed. Nope. Why would I be on your laptop? It was a fair question. I didn't press further. But I noticed something. She didn't even ask what the folder was about. No curiosity. No concern. Just dismissal. Over the next few days, things escalated. One afternoon, I got a call from Claudia, the strategist at Saffron & Stone. I had just finished rehearsing a 5-minute campaign pitch I wanted to share with them during the creative session. But her tone on the phone was off. "Eliza," she said, "just checking in, we received an email from someone who claimed to know you personally. They raised concerns about your conduct at university, saying you had plagiarized a few assignments. Of course, we're not assuming anything, but, is there any truth to that?" I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I was stunned silent for a moment. Then I stammered out, "Absolutely not. That's insane. I've never plagiarized anything in my life. I'd be happy to send you all my academic records, references, whatever you need." Claudia paused and then softened her voice. "I believe you. But I had to check. It's just odd." The email was very detailed. After the call, I couldn't breathe. I sat there, staring at my phone, heart racing. Someone was trying to ruin me. And it wasn't random. Whoever sent that email knew exactly what to say to raise doubt without getting caught. They knew I was up for that role. They knew Claudia's name. They knew where I had studied. And there was only one person who had access to all of that information. Zara. But how could I accuse her? What would I even say? "Hey, did you just try to ruin my future out of jealousy?" No. That would only make me look paranoid, or worse, guilty. So instead, I decided to play it cool. I pretended nothing had happened. I thanked Claudia for checking in and sent her all the proof she needed. I still had the campaign pitch session scheduled for that Friday. I needed to stay focused. I couldn't afford to spiral, not now. But inside, I knew. Zara wasn't just being distant anymore. She was actively trying to tear me down, slowly, quietly, in ways no one else would notice. A whisper here, a lie there, a little erasure in the background. She was dismantling me, piece by piece, and watching me try to hold it all together like some kind of cruel social experiment. And the worst part? I still didn't know why. Was it jealousy? Spite? Insecurity? Or was it just because, in her eyes, I wasn't supposed to win? It's strange how betrayal doesn't always come crashing down in one dramatic moment. Sometimes, it unravels quietly, one thread at a time, until you're standing in the middle of a mess you didn't even see forming. I had my suspicions about Zara, but I still didn't have proof. And in a situation like this, suspicion without proof just makes you sound crazy. So, I waited. I watched. And then, I found it. It was a Tuesday evening, 2 days before my creative pitch session at Saffron & Stone. I had come home early from campus and planned to rehearse my presentation alone in the apartment. Zara had said she'd be working late at a studio across town. But when I walked through the door, the apartment was quiet. Too quiet. I went to my room to grab my laptop charger and heard a faint clicking sound from Zara's room. The door was ajar. She must have forgotten to shut it completely. I don't know what made me pause, but I did. She wasn't at the studio. She was in her room, headphones in, completely immersed in whatever she was typing. Her back was turned, but the glow from her screen lit up the wall. I took a step forward, quiet, almost guilty, until I saw what was on her screen. My name. In bold, across the subject line of an email. I froze. She was writing to someone at Saffron & Stone. I could make out part of the address in the CC field, using a burner Gmail account. Something generic, like, Careers Insider 2025. My blood ran cold. She was doing it again. Another anonymous tip. Another hit job dressed up like a concerned warning. I didn't say anything. I didn't confront her. I just backed away silently and walked straight to my room. I sat there for 10 minutes, my heart thudding so hard it hurt. Then, I opened my own laptop and did something I hadn't done in weeks. I logged into the router admin dashboard. See, one of the quirks of our apartment was that the internet randomly dropped out sometimes, and I'd been the one to set up the modem. I still had the admin credentials saved. Once I logged in, I clicked through the connected devices and recent access logs. And there it was. Zara's laptop had accessed my Google Drive 3 nights earlier. Same timestamp as when my folder had gone missing. I felt like I was going to throw up. It wasn't just a hunch anymore. She had deleted my pitch materials. She had fabricated the plagiarism story. She was actively emailing the company behind my back, trying to sabotage every inch of progress I'd made, and smiling to my face the entire time. For a moment, I just sat there. Not angry. Not even shocked. Just hollow. Zara, the girl who shared her last glass of wine with me during exam week, who helped me iron my shirt for my first group interview, who laughed with me on our tiny balcony while we watched storms roll in over the city skyline, that Zara had never really existed. What lived across the hallway was something else entirely. I wanted to scream. To confront her. To demand answers. But deep down, I knew, no explanation would satisfy me. Because it wasn't just the sabotage that hurt. It was that I had trusted her. I had opened up my life to her, my home, my ambitions, my vulnerabilities. And she had used all of that as ammunition. In that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't lash out. I wouldn't fight her on her terms. I wouldn't stoop to her level. Instead, I was going to take everything she had done. And turn it into a weapon, one she wouldn't see coming. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every shared laugh, every glass of wine with Zara like they were scenes from someone else's life. Like I'd been living in a carefully constructed illusion. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to rip open her door and read her email out loud, word for word, so she couldn't lie her way out of it. But instead, I forced myself to breathe, slow and steady. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: the best revenge is not rage. It's strategy. So I sat at my desk the next morning, opened a new notebook, and titled the first page, The Zara File. I wrote everything I had, dates, access logs from the Wi-Fi router, screenshots from my Drive activity history, the timeline of her being home the night the folder disappeared, even a blurry photo I'd taken from my doorway when I caught her mid-email. I created a folder called Evidence on my desktop and backed it up twice. One copy to a USB, another to a cloud folder she didn't know existed. Next, I reached out to Claudia at Saffron and Stone. I told her I had reason to believe someone close to me had been sending false information to the agency, and that I had proof. I offered to meet in person, not just to defend myself, but to expose everything. To my surprise, Claudia didn't hesitate. "Come in tomorrow," she said. "Bring what you have. We take this sort of thing very seriously." That gave me one day. One day to be methodical. Careful. Ruthless, not in cruelty, but in precision. That evening, I acted like nothing was wrong. I came home to the usual smell of Zara's lavender room spray and the sound of some reality show echoing from the living room. She was on the couch, sipping wine, phone in hand. I walked past her and smiled. "Hey. Long day?" She nodded, barely glancing at me. You? Yeah. But exciting. I've got that big creative session tomorrow." She froze for half a second. Not long enough for most people to notice. But I saw it. Her lips tightened. Her grip on the wine glass shifted. "Still going through with that?" she said casually. "After, you know." "Yeah," I said lightly, they were really understanding. Turns out it wasn't a big deal. Probably just a misunderstanding. I swear I saw something flicker in her eyes, panic, maybe. Or frustration. I don't think she expected them to still give me a shot. But she smiled, nodded, and turned back to her phone. I went to my room and closed the door behind me. That night, I printed out everything, screenshots, logs, timelines. I even found an old voice memo from weeks earlier, where I had recorded an idea for a campaign. In the background, you could hear Zara asking about the client's name and making a mental note of it. Unintentional, but damning. I placed everything in a neat file folder and packed my laptop bag with care. No drama. No theatrics. By the time the sun rose over Newtown, I was already dressed, blazer on, folder in hand, heart pounding. I felt like I was walking into a courtroom, not a boardroom. But I was ready. Not just to defend myself. But to show them, and eventually her, what I'd figured out. Zara thought she was smart, subtle, surgical. But she had underestimated one thing: I wasn't just ambitious. I was relentless when someone tried to destroy what I'd built. And now, it was her turn to watch me work. The Saffron and Stone office felt different this time. Maybe it was just me, walking in with a folder full of evidence, 1,000 emotions in my chest, and the quiet knowing that this wasn't just a career moment anymore. It was justice. Claudia met me in a small glass meeting room off to the side of the main workspace. She was dressed in sharp neutrals, her hair pinned back like always, but her eyes were softer than usual. "I'm sorry this is happening to you, Eliza," she said as she closed the door behind us. "You don't have to prove anything, but if you've brought something." "I'm listening." I handed her the folder. She opened it slowly, scanning each page, the access logs, the drive activity, screenshots of the emails, and finally, the photo I'd taken of Zara mid-sabotage, sitting at her laptop with my name glowing on the screen. When she reached the bottom of the pile, Claudia looked up at me. "She's your roommate?" I nodded. We were friends. Or I thought we were. I think, she didn't expect me to get this far. Claudia took a moment to process it all. Then she leaned back in her chair. "We've had cases like this before," she said quietly. Jealous friends. Exes. Even former classmates trying to discredit someone. But this, she was methodical. She knew what to say, I murmured. She knew how to twist things just enough to plant doubt. "Well, she failed," Claudia said. "You're here. And I want you to know, this doesn't affect your application. In fact, it makes you look even more resilient." My throat tightened. "Thank you," I whispered. Claudia stood up, tucking the folder under her arm. "We're still doing the creative pitch session, by the way. You ready?" I took a deep breath, smoothed my blazer, and nodded. Ready wasn't the word. I was electrified. The pitch session was with 5 team members in a sleek open-floor room with huge windows overlooking Taylor Square. They gave me 20 minutes. I delivered every word like my life depended on it. And when I was done, they clapped. Not politely. Genuinely. That alone would have been enough. But what came next? I didn't see coming. 3 days later, Claudia emailed me. I was in. Junior strategist. Full-time. Starting next month. It was the proudest moment of my life. And I hadn't even told Zara yet. But I wasn't going to stay quiet forever. The opportunity came that weekend. Claudia had invited me to a networking mixer hosted at Saffron and Stone's rooftop garden. It was one of those warm Sydney evenings where the city looked like a movie, golden light spilling over the skyline, soft jazz playing, people laughing with glasses of white wine in hand. And guess who showed up? Zara. I saw her across the terrace, walking in confidently, wearing one of those blazers she only wore when she was trying to look industry-ready. I hadn't invited her, obviously. But she'd gotten in through a mutual connection, probably still trying to play the game. She hadn't seen me yet. So I walked right up to her. "Zara," I said, smiling. She turned, startled. Her smile faded the second she saw me. "Oh. Hi. I didn't know you'd be here," she said quickly. "Oh, I'm not just here," I replied, casually sipping my drink. "I work here now. Claudia hired me." Her eyes twitched, just slightly. You're working here," she stammered. Full-time. Junior strategist. Oh, and she knows about the emails. The fake plagiarism stuff. The folder deletion. All of it. She blinked, frozen. "You didn't think I'd figure it out, did you?" I added. "It's okay. You don't have to say anything. I've already said everything that needed to be said. To the right people." For a second, I saw her composure crack, just a flicker of fear behind her carefully painted expression. She didn't respond. She just turned and walked away, faster than she'd arrived. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Because she wasn't just exposed. She was finished. After everything that happened, you'd think I'd feel victorious. Like I won. But the truth? I felt exhausted. Betrayal does that to you. It doesn't just hurt in the moment, it leaves a bruise in places you didn't know could bruise. And even after the dust settled, I still had to figure out who I was without all that pain holding me together. The Monday after the rooftop event, I moved out of the apartment. I didn't wait for Zara to be home. I didn't write her a dramatic note. I just packed my things, called a moving van, and left the keys on the kitchen bench, right under the magnet that said, "Good vibes only." It was ironic, really. I found a studio apartment in Glebe, just 10 minutes from my new office. It was tiny, barely enough room for my bed, a desk, and a few plants, but it was mine. No shared fridge, no fake small talk, no pretending everything was okay when it wasn't. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Work became my sanctuary. The team at Saffron and Stone was everything I had hoped for, creative, driven, and surprisingly kind. Claudia became a quiet mentor, someone who understood not just my ambition, but the emotional wreckage I was sifting through behind the scenes. She never brought up Zara again. Neither did I. It was unspoken, that sometimes, the best form of healing is not reopening the wound. One night, a few weeks into the job, I stayed back late at the office. I was working on a pitch for a sustainable fashion brand when one of the senior strategists, Lyle, passed by my desk. "You're the one who took the hit and still came swinging, right?" he said casually. I looked up, startled. "What do you mean?" I heard a bit of what happened. Claudia didn't give details, but people notice when someone doesn't just bounce back, they rebuild stronger. He smiled, then walked away. And that stuck with me. Because maybe I hadn't just survived Zara's sabotage. Maybe I'd become someone better because of it. I wasn't naive anymore. I wasn't afraid of confrontation. And I definitely wasn't waiting for someone else to validate my worth. I was building something real now, on my own terms. Weeks turned into months. I got promoted to lead a mid-sized campaign by the end of the quarter. I went to rooftop events and actually enjoyed them. I learned how to take up space in meetings without shrinking. I even made real friends, ones who didn't compete with me or silently root for my failure. And one morning, As I was walking to the office with a coffee in hand and the Sydney skyline glowing in front of me, I realized something. I no longer thought about Zara when I looked back on that chapter of my life. I thought about me, the version of me that didn't quit, didn't break, and didn't let someone else write the ending to my story. Jealousy may have started the fire. But I walked through it, came out the other side, and built a new life from the ashes. And that? That was the best revenge of all.